There wasn't a lot of hope around in people's lives. Life was difficult.
There weren't probably big things like that going on with lights and festivals and things just after the war, so it was something so unusual. I think that's, you know, it was very enterprising of Leamington to even think of putting on something like that.
We were just out of the dark days of the Second World War, and things were improving all the while, but this was just spectacular.
And this really lit the town up, and when people heard of it from miles and miles around, they used to come by train and all sorts of transport to get here.
It was just bright, it was cheerful in a drab world.
I was only 3 at the time, so it would have been a big adventure going out. It would have seemed like a long journey to me going in. We had a car, so we went by car. I just remember it just seemed like a very magical experience. Just remember the people, the lights, the characters that I saw, which were the nursery rhyme characters, all come to life. So it was a really amazing thing for a small child to see.
We came in my father's fish van. My dad didn't have a car because he didn't need one. Dad had a van for deliveries, so there was a rug in the back of the fish van, and we sat in there and we came over and we got here.
Coaches used to come from all over the country and be parked up along Newbold Terrace both sides, up the parade, down Bar Street, Door Place.
And my dad would write not only to me, but he would write to the family back in Ireland, telling them all about the Jefferson Gardens and what went on there. And so, of course, when they came over to stay for a while, then they would go and see the lights, you know.
We lived in the Punjab. It was a little village called Korkli Than Singh. When I was 2.5, my father left. He was going to go to England. My father had already lost an uncle that had gone to Panama when the Panama Canal was being dug. Because of that, the family weren't really happy that Dad was going to go to England.
We came to Leamington Spa in August 1955, so 69 years ago. The reason that my family came to Leamington Spa, that we came from Ireland and there wasn't enough work for people in Ireland, so my father came to Leamington first and he got a job in Leamington. He was a skilled machine operator and he got a job in Lockheed's, and so he came back to Ireland and we all came. There were 5 children. My youngest sister was nearly 1 and we lived in a very little house. It was literally 2 up, 2 down, with a toilet in the backyard, and that's how we started off in Leamington.
My dad earned £7 a week to keep a family of 4 on. So to go even to the lights of Leamington was a very special treat.
I seemed quite adept at getting into places and doing things with at very little or no cost. At this point here, down by the Mill Gardens, there was a turnstile, which was, during the day you could put a penny in to get into the garden, gain access, or from the inside you could come out by pulling a lever. I found that I could squeeze part way through the turnstile, reach through to the handle, pull the handle so that the turnstile would rotate. I rotated about part way to a point where I could actually squeeze through the side of the bars and gain access. I don't think anybody else could do that because nobody's small enough or daft enough, cheeky enough.
And it was a great big event in the town that we'd say to everybody we would know, and we'd meet people that we knew there.
Going to the lights tonight, going to the lights tonight, you know, and we were in little parties sort of thing going down there and then walking around and seeing them.
Hordes of people, crowds of people, you were in a great crowd of people coming around, yeah. And it was always so welcoming because as soon as you got there, that the visual effect of it would immediately engage you and excite you as a child.
Well, that picture there is taken the side of the pavilion. My father and my uncle are amongst two of the people there. They both worked for the local council. They were seconded to do maintenance work or whatever.
All the pieces, like the set pieces of equipment, that was all like if it was a model of something, and then it all had to be connected inside, sort of thing. So I think that was all done. And I think they had to just sort of connect it up, or put all the individual bulbs in, like a string of lights, where it's all the different bulbs. You know, it wasn't just a string of lights there is now. And if one goes out, they all went out. You know, so they were there in the evening, and then there all day repairing what was wrong the night before.
Oh, I remember that one. They made it look as if it was underwater. And they were all bobbing up and down. The parrot used to rock and used to talk.
See, all these things, it was like stage equipment. It was like scaffolding, and they were all sort of put up, which held them up in their place. There was like a little platform thing in the middle of the lake with a little bridge across, so dignitaries or anyone that used to come in to switch the lights on that particular night, they pressed a button, but it was just a wire that went down into the desk, because a big maroon was sent off, a bit like a very enormous firework with a great big thud bang. And that was to indicate to the various electricians that were at points all the way around the gardens, so that they could switch their section of lighting on.
I was in awe of everything. No matter where you turned, they weren't just plain yellow or white lights. There were various colours of the rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. You name it. They were shone into the leaves of the trees and down to the ground. And you've got things like Alice in Wonderland being illustrated. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, all the Disney characters were all of the time. They were all there because, don't forget, Disneyland at this point hadn't been built even. This was very revolutionary, Leamington, with the lights of Leamington, And it was a marvel that everybody wanted to come and they couldn't believe it when they did see it. It was such a fantastic success.
Our parents took us to the lights every year, and I've got very vivid memories of going there.
And it was like a magical wonderland when we entered.
It was just a wonderland. It was surreal, and it was escapism after all the austerity that we've been through.
Something completely different that they would not have ever seen before. Something that would take 2 to 3 hours to walk round, which it did.
I'd come from a village where there was no electricity, and it was seeing all these lights and all these colours. It really was magical.
Well, your first instinct, if you saw that in the dark, you'd think, how long's that been there? It's such a surprise. Where you went, you were amazed by, oh, look at that, look at that, look at that.
Suddenly, there's all this light. You're in Wonderland. You didn't have to go to Disney. It's all there in front of you. It was a real sort of treat.
You get things like the scenery of Venice, for instance, where you can see where the Bridge of Sighs is, the Doge's Palace, St Mark's Square. It was a real good scenery along there. New York skyline was another one. You've got these images of the Queen Elizabeth, the boat. So no matter where you went, there was always something.
I think it was just the colour. I mean, because colour was quite rare in those days, I think. The colour and the spectacle.
All the trees, Hickman's Fountain, the obelisk, they were all floodlit. The colours were amazing.
The fountains, when I looked at them, I thought it was coloured water that was sprouting out. Of course, since I've learnt that it was the light that gave the water the different colours.
And they were like 2 crowns. They would go, say, from red to blue. You hadn't seen anything like that.
Well, my father had his own camera, so it was a bit of a hobby of his. So on this trip to Leamington, he obviously brought his camera and he took these photographs of the nursery rhyme characters and me standing in front of them.
What I particularly remember is the old woman who lived in the shoe, and I remember Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. But they were, what was wonderful about them is they were animated.
Especially these lights, like a little row of rabbits really hopping through the shrubbery. It was like that light went on, that one went off, and then that one came on, and then that one came on. That birdcage walk was really pretty. That was all down like the side of the Newbold Terrace, right up to Jefferson Memorial.
Well, I can remember the Queen's coronation, and we had our first TV. So I remember my mother, when she took my photographs with a tableau of the coronation, insisting I took my coat off, and it probably was cold. So there's a couple of shots with me with my coat on and a couple of me with probably the dress that my mother was very proud of that she'd made.
The clock seemed very interesting. You know, a clock made all of plants and flowers, and it really worked and gave the time. You know, that was good.
There's the version of the Guinness clock along here, which is quite fascinating because on the hour, figures would rotate, pop up, and also do a few strange things.
You used to run down to watch it. You never, ever got fed up of watching it.
And I remember the Jefferson Memorial being lit up.
That was lit up, yes.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how, but I can remember that being lit up.
And did you shout into it? So it echoed?
I still shout into it.
Oh, right.
And I think it was just a joyful place where people could go for a nice evening out.
So in the 50s, it was all teddy boys, beehive hairdos, dresses with net underskirts so that when you drived, you spun around and of course you could see the suspenders.
I used to make full skirts with big petticoats underneath, which was, in those days, Alma Cogan, a person called Alma Cogan was a singer. So I made my dresses like hers.
But we used to starch our petticoats, which were knit, in sugar and water to make them stiff. And my mother used to say, "You've been at that sugar again, Wendy. It's no wonder we've never got any." All the girls wore flat ballet shoes to start with, a bit like in Greece, and the skirts, I reckon they all nicked the mother's sugar on the choir.
I guess from my point of view, thinking about this, that teenagers were invented. And I was a teenager, in the first batch, shall we say.
There was one lad in Leamington, beetle crushes came in, teddy boy suits, and he had this suit made out of curtain material. But the teddy boys used to go up the town, brush it. Oh, they thought they were the bees.
At that time, rock and roll was coming into being. Oh, rock and roll, it was a revolution. It's a very famous revolution locally, because when they showed it at one of the cinemas, they were out in the aisles, dancing in the aisles, and everybody was up. They couldn't sit in the seats. It gets into your soul. After the music that we've put up with for years as young people, this beat music just got into your soul, and you just couldn't help move something, arm and a leg or anything.
There used to be a massive marquee where the clock tower is, and we used to dance, believe it or not, in shoes like this. My goodness me, I'd need crutches now. I couldn't even walk in them, let alone dancing.
And adjacent to the lake, where we had the fountains, illuminated fountains, with a little stage in the middle of the lake, with a guy sitting there playing an organ. I understand that it was Jeff Goff, one of our local musicians, who had an orchestra at some stage. He used to play some of the local dance halls.
The thing that stands out to me is the ballet. I think it really was, because it was a black background, they kept it dark behind. So it was purposely kept black and you just got the ballet. It was just as if it was in space, really. It was beautiful.
I think this bit is right, that at the end of the evening that there would be a firework display, you know, lit up.
Oh yes, I remember that too.
That was the grand finale at the end.
But I don't think we stayed for those. But if I stood on my front doorstep, because we were so near to it, I could see them.
We'd had fireworks in India because at Diwali you always had fireworks, but they were nothing compared with the spectacle that we had here. The ones back at home were quite pathetic, really, in comparison. Because they were just bangers or, you know, tiny little fountains that squirted up and fizzled out. Whereas these, they were big. You know, they were like flowers bursting out. They were, oh, the business. They really were. There were two newspapers, the Courier and the Morning News at that time that we used to have. And there was a lot of commotion, that people were complaining it was too noisy and it was disturbing them, and the fireworks particularly going off, and how the town was overcome by visitors and they didn't want the lights anymore.
Well, the people, I suppose, it came to a natural end because of the way it's been going for so many years. In the local press, there was always people complaining about the noise and nuisance, but as far as I'm concerned, there was no real noise and nuisance. But to me, anything that I saw that you might consider in those days a noise or nuisance was just people enjoying themselves, youthful high spirits.
It spoke of optimism, and it spoke of development, and it spoke of imagination. So, and all of that actually on a town cultural sense, we'd actually developed a vision of Leamington as being an interesting place, as being an imaginative place, artistic place.
The money it must have brought into Leamington was phenomenal. Because, I mean, people they came and stayed overnight in the hotels. So, yes, there's a lot of money spent, yes. It'd be nice if it did it again. Could do with it.
It was very enterprising of Leamington to even think of putting on something like that, the cost of it and advertising it around the Midlands.
You just cannot imagine what it was like unless you've been to see it. It is just something so phenomenal. It was breathtakingly beautiful.
They're wonderful memories that no one can take away.
Magical. Magical is the one word that comes to mind all the time. Enlightening. Yes.
But everybody was in a good mood, you know, it was a happy place. Yeah, happy place.
I can remember just being in total awe of it, that anybody could produce something that was so marvellous.
Yeah, even thinking about them makes me happy.
Sometimes the simplest things in life are the best. I love the lights in Leamington. I really did.
What do you think, sir, about the fact there aren't any lights this year?
Well, it's a big disappointment to a lot of the people from around such places as Birmingham, the black country and around there, because there used to be quite a lot of those people come here, you know. And it certainly must have brought business to the town.
Mr. Bryan, you're a publican here in Leamington. How is the fact that there aren't any lights this year affecting you?
Well, I'm rather pleased about the old situation myself, that the lights have been stopped, because I found that the wrong type of people were coming into the town, causing a lot of nuisance. Most of them came loaded with beer in the coaches, and they just simply put in an hour's appearance just to have a sing-song in the pubs.
Are you worried because there aren't any lights in Leamington this year?
Yes, definitely. Because I think it's brought trade to the town. I think it's brought business to town. I think definitely we should have lights.
Well, I think it's rather disgraceful, the rates and taxes there is in Leamington, and nothing to entertain the people. And Royal Leamington Spa everywhere you go is advertised, London, Birmingham and everywhere, and yet I don't see what they're advertising for. There's nothing to advertise.
What about you, Miss?
Well, as I already said, there was all these little country villages. They came round, gave them an evening out, and a pleasant evening. There was the old age pensioners used to come from different little country villages for an evening here. Well, it certainly has made a big difference, not keeping them going, and I think they should come back again.